This is a Gemara in Gittin, Daf Nun Zayin. It also comes up in Sanhedrin. The Gemara is listing a group of people from Tanakh that were up to no good, and yet they had a good end. There were good things that emerged from them. For example, Naaman was a ger toishav. Naaman originally harassed the Yidden in the times of Elisha, and then he was cured by toiveling in the Yarden, in the waters of the Jordan, through the advice of Elisha. And Naaman then said, you know what, apparently God's for real. He became a ger toishav, a guy who keeps the Zion mitzvahs, the 7 mitzvahs. Nebuzaradon was the chief butcher of Nebuchadnezzar, laid the siege against Yerushalayim in the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. Nebuzaradon killed hundreds of thousands of Yidden. That was under his direction. And yet, the end was ger tzedekah, he became a full-fledged Jew.
Wow.
One of the greatest butchers of Jewish blood became a full-fledged Jew. The Gemara speaks about the story why he did that.
Wow.
The story was when he entered the Beis HaMikdash, he saw there was a little pool of blood that was still bubbling. It seemed fresh.
Yeah.
And he asked, what is this? So the Kohanim said it's some lambs, some goat blood, korbanos blood. It just spilled on the floor. He brought some other animals, and he compared the two, and they were not identical. He said, you better tell me what this is, or I'll kill you all. So they told him 200 years ago, there was a Navi, Zechariah, ben Yehoyada, and he gave prophecies of doom, forewarning the coming destruction. The Yidden had descended into idolatry. And the Yidden were so upset that they actually pounced upon him and killed him in the Azara of the Beis HaMikdash. And the blood never stopped seething. And Nebuzaradon said, Zechariah, I'm going to avenge your blood. And he killed many, many people. And ultimately he said to himself, if because Zechariah was murdered by Yidden, therefore God allowed me to kill all these Jews, imagine what's going to happen to me if I killed all of these Jews.
Wow. And
he decided, you know what? It's time to convert. By the way, in the time to the Baal Shem Tov, there was a fellow, a big Litvish Gaon, a genius in learning and a holy man, and he was murdered by Goyim. And the Baal Shem Tov students asked him, what's this all about? Why did God let that happen? And the Baal Shem Tov said that in the story of Zechariah, how did the Yidden have the audacity to gang up on the Navi and take his life? There was the head of the Sanhedrin then, whose name was whatever. And when he heard Zechariah prophesize about the impending doom, he went over to Zechariah, he slapped him across the face. He said, Ama Oretz, ignorant one, who gave you the right to prophesize? And that gave the Yidden the audacity to kill the Navi. So the Baal Shem Tov said, when that happened, it was decreed upon this head of the Sanhedrin that his soul will have to come down to this world many times, and each time he's going to be killed by Goyim.
Wow.
And this Litvish Rav, he had that soul. Anyhow.
In the beginning of Shaftim over there, the guy who was stabbed was the name.
Right, I know. I think they would have absolved him.
This comes from him, and I come from him,
Eglon was killed. Eglon was stabbed. Eglon was a Moavi king. Oh wow. Okay, we'll take
5. Station identification.
All right, let's go right. Let's get right into it. So, the Gemara says you have Naaman, Nebuzaradon. Then it says bnei bonav shel Haman, from Haman's einiklach lamdu Torah bnei brak. They taught Torah in bnei brak. So this is an important statement. From Haman's einiklach, they were teaching Torah in bnei brak. We'll see why that's so important in a minute. Let's just finish the statement. This is a Brisa we're quoting, or a Tosefta. Continues the Gemara. Mibnei bonav shel Sisra. In Sefer Shoftim, you have the story of Sisra, who harassed the Yidden, tormented the Jews for decades, and ultimately his downfall came with the woman Yael and with the Devorah at that time. Sisra's einiklach limdu tinoikas taught kids b'Yerushalayim. The Gemara doesn't identify who Haman's einikel was and who Sisra einikel was. It does say the following though. Mibnei Bonav, Meir came from Niroin, Kesar, not these people. Mibnei Bonav Shel Sancheriv, from Sancheriv's Einiklach. Sancheriv, we know, was about 2/3 of the way into the first Beis Hamikdash. He was involved in exiling the 10 tribes in the northern kingdom, and then he wanted to fight against the southern kingdom of the Yidden, which was ruled then by the king Chizkiyahu, and Sancheriv failed. He was killed by his own kids after his failure. But either way, his Einiklach Limdu Torah B'Rabim taught Torah publicly. It doesn't say the location, bnei brak or Yerushalayim, like it says about Haman's and Sisra's kids, but it says Barabim. And here it says, the Gemara says, Man inun, who are the Einiklach of Sancheriv? Shemaya and Avtalion. Shemaya and Avtalion, who we know in Pirkei Avos, they were Gerim. And they came from Sancheriv's family, from Ashur. But it doesn't identify Haman's Einiklach or Sisra's Einiklach. So Rav Nissim Gaon was in the first generation of the Rishonim. He was born in the end of the 10th century. He lives in Al-Kairun. Al-Kairun is in Tunisia. And the Chidah actually says a beautiful thing. The Chidah says he was really the generation after the Gaonim. The Gaonim ended with Rav Hai Gaon, who passes away in the year 1038. And anyone younger is really the next generation, which is the first generation of the Rishonim, or they were known then as the Rabbonim, the first generation of Rabbonim. So Rav Nissim Gaon, how did he get the title Gaon? He was a generation after the Gaonim. So the Chidah says that he had a very deep relationship with Rav Hai Gaon, who lived in Bavel, in Iraq, and Rav Nissim Gaon is a bocher in Tunisia, but he sent so many letters and he was so makusher. He had such a close relationship with Rav Hai Gaon that he even had Rav Hai's last name. He got the name. He got the name because he was so close to his Rebbe. Which means when a chassid goes down the street, you carry the Rebbe's name with you. That's what the Chidah says. Fascinating thing. Either way, Rav Nissim Gaon wrote a commentary on that we have on some Masechtas of Gemara, and in his commentary Masechta Brachas, what? The Ram's name was also Rabbeinu Nissim, same name, but he was a couple hundred years later. He was in Spain in the 1300s. Right. So same name, both Nissim, right? They're both Nissim. Rav Nissim Gaon says, who was Sisra's Einikul? It was Rabbi Akiva. And this requires a whole shiur on its own, but just to tell you an incredible thing that the Kabbalists say. Why was Sisra so invincible? Sisra used to roar and walls would collapse in front of him. Why was he so invincible? Because he had the power of Rabbi Akiva inside of him. You'll see what that means. Sisra has a war with the Yidden. The Yidden are led by Devorah, the prophetess, and her husband Barak. And the Yidden overpower the Goyim. Sisra runs for his life. He sees the tent of his friend Chever, who was married to Yael. Yael says, come to the tent, I'll take care of you. It's a sanctuary. Hold on, his father was. So Yael then tires him out and has intimacy with him 7 times till he was so weak that she bludgeons him to death. Why was it Sisra was invincible and all of a sudden a woman is able to kill him? So the Rameh Mipano, the great Kabbalist, Menachem Azariah of Pano, says the reason he was invincible is because he had Rabbi Akiva inside of him. When Yael had intimacy with him and took his seed, ultimately she conceived the ancestor of Rabbi Akiva. So that's why Sisra became like a floppy latka. He lost all of his strength at that moment. It came like mashed potato because his strength was literally removed from him, physically removed. And ultimately Yael has a kid, and that's the ancestor of Rabbi Akiva. But what about, who's Haman's Einikul teaching Torah in Bnei Brak? So in the Ein Yaakov is a collection of all the Agadat of Gemara. It was put together by Rabbi Yankov Chaviv in the end of the 1400s. In it, his version, it says who it is. His name was Rav Shmuel, the son of Shelas. He was a teacher. We know he was a teacher. The Gemara in Baba Basra speaks about he was the famous person that even after years of being away from his students, he never stopped thinking about his students. And we'll see why this is significant.
13 years.
Right. And we'll see why this is significant. By the way, back real Rosh Yeshivas, even decades later, would see their old Talmidim and remember their names. Remember, they would say about Baruch Ber Leibovitz, who was a big Rosh Yeshiva before the Holocaust. He was one of the greatest students of Reb Chaim Brisker. And the Friedrich Rebbe says beautiful things about Baruch Ber. The Rebbe met him, and he was incredible gone. And yet we actually have he looks like, he has his hair, white hair flying, looks like the Rogatchover, white hair flying everywhere. He was an incredible mind, a huge scholar. A beautiful picture of him in the forest sitting, flanked by students. And these students were teenagers, and they look modern for the time, but you see them flanking, and they loved him. And he was just, he was known 30, 40 years after having not seen a student. He would remember the student, he would remember every conversation he had with the student. And he would, it's not just he would remember, he would talk to the student and just pick up where they left off, ask him how's it going. The Bachram really felt not only that he cared for them, but he knew them. He knew them like through and through.
He didn't live till the Holocaust?
I don't know exactly what year he passed away, but sometime in the 30s. There's a beautiful story that the Rebbe met him, but we got to stick to the task at hand. So Rav Shmuel Bar Shelas, he is the Einakul of Haman. Now, why his name is important, you'll see.
I didn't know that in Yaakov didn't just copy the Gemara and cut it
He has versions, different versions. He also wrote a commentary. The big chiddush of his, he wrote a commentary in the Gadata called HaKoisiv, the writer. So if you have the Ein Yankov, there's a commentary on the side, was written by him.
Oh, wow.
So that was his a big contribution.
In the text that he said?
In the text, yeah. And we often have different versions. The Ein Yaakov, part of what he did was he wanted to give, in those days, this is the printing press had just begun, without electricity. The printing press had just begun. And, but who had anything, who had Gemaras? So, and many people weren't able to learn Gemara, so at least to have the Agadata available. And he made sure to give an authoritative text as exact as possible as he was able to do. Fine. So Rabbi said, what's the problem with this? The problem with this is the following. And this question has been asked for at least 500 years, and there's hundreds of answers. What's the question? We'll begin with this question. There's a story in Sefer Shmuel. The death of Shaul, very sad story. It's written twice in Sefer Shmuel. In the end of Shmuel Aleph and the beginning of Shmuel Beis, the story of the death of Shaul. Shaul was at a war with the Plishtim. Shaul knew he was going to die. The day before he had summoned Shmuel through the necromancy.
Abner's mother.
He had summoned Shmuel from the dead, and Shmuel had told him, you're going to die tomorrow. He knew he was dying. The Plishtim weren't too far, so he tells his attendant, could you kill me? And the attendant says, I can't do that. So Shaul says, I'll do it myself. He sticks his sword in the ground, and he falls upon it. But it was a failed suicide attempt. He missed his heart, missed his lungs. It was a failed, but he couldn't move. He was maybe paralyzed himself. He couldn't get himself up. And now he knew that he's going to be alive for a couple hours. The Plishtim are going to get hold of him. And who knows what they're going to do to him, torture, this and that. They'll lynch him, skin him, who knows. So there was another fellow walking by. And Shaul asked him, please do me, I'm dying. Please finish me off. And the guy finished him off. At that time, while Shaul was fighting with the Plishtim, David HaMelech, the whole kingdom of Shaul was only about 2.5 years, the whole thing. And at that time when Shaul died in the war with the Plishtim, David himself was waging a war against Amalek. Now, a year before then, Shaul himself had a famous war with Amalek, and he killed everyone. We're going to read in this Haftarah, except the animals, some of the, but that was only one area of Amalek. It was not the entire nation. It was one area. David now, a year later, was fighting a different area, Amalekim.
So why do we learn that every Amalek continued only because of that one person who had magician?
Haman Punkt came from that union. Haman came from that union, from Agag. But there were others. Now, David did a good job, though, knocking them off a year later in this other area, an area called Siklag. Either way, this is how Shmuel Beis opens up. David is there fighting with Amalek, and all of a sudden a fellow comes running. Sorry, his shirt is torn, he's out of breath, he's sweating, he has blood everywhere. He says, David, you'll never believe it. Your nemesis Shaul is dead. David says, how do you know? I killed him.
Halachically, aren't you allowed to do that if someone's dying?
That's a good question. Wait, so let's see. So David then asked him, who are you? And the fellow said, I am the son of an Amaleki. My father's from Amalek. He was Megayer, a ger, and I'm his child. David responds, Picha Anabach, your mouth has testified against you. He kills him. Why did David kill him? So the simple reading of the story is David killed him because he killed Shaul. David in fact told him, how could you not have been afraid to... You think I hated Shaul? Shaul was a great Talmid Chacham. Shaul was a righteous man. Shaul was anointed by Shmuel. Shaul was anointed by God. Why were you afraid to harm the anointed one of God? So it seems like David killed the guy because of the guy's act of murder. On the other hand, wait a second. If someone has a mortal wound that they're going to die from, they're called a treifa. If you kill them, you don't get capital punishment.
You didn't tell him that.
Well, Psukim are cryptic. You probably told him the whole story.
I thought he was
And
too
definitely
gleeful.
before David's about to kill him, you probably said, let me tell you what happened. The guy was a
I
treifa.
thought he was too gleeful when he reported it because he thought David would be happy, and that's why David.
So he was mistaken. So he thought he made him at the emes. He thought David would taka be happy.
Yeah.
He was loyal to David, and David pays him back with. How does that work? He was loyal. Not just that. When he killed Shaul, Shaul begged him to do it. So you're going to say he killed the king. The king asked him to. On the other hand, a king can't forego his honor. A king can't be moichel on his honor. But Shaul was saying, it's my honor to kill me, because if you
otherwise
don't,
he
then who
would've
knows what
been
they're going to do.
Horrible.
Oh, so therefore comes the medrash known as the Mechilta, which is a halachic medrash on Sefer Shmos. On Parshas B'Shalach, where you have the war of Amalek with the Yidden, where Hashem says, Milchem el Hashem b'Amalek midor, I'm going to fight with Amalek, it's a personal war. The Mechilta there quotes a statement from Rabbi Eliezer, the great Tana Rabbi Eliezer, Bekiva's teacher. Rabbi Eliezer says the following, that after Amalek attacked the Yidden when we left Mitzrayim, God took an oath. He said, any guy that wants to convert will accept. Not from Amalek. No converts from Amalek. And says Rabbi Eliezer, you know why David killed this guy? This guy identified himself from Amalek. His father converted. The conversion didn't take effect. It's a faulty conversion. It doesn't work if you're from Amalek. David was in the middle of destroying Amalek, so he killed him because he was Amalek. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says. Which means Rabbi Eliezer gives the halacha, you can't accept a ger from Amalek. So the $1 million question is, so how could Haman, who's from Amalek, have Eneklech that are teaching Torah in bnei brak? So one of my Borchim said, well, who said they were Megayer? They were stam teaching Torah in bnei brak. A bunch of Amalekim teaching Torah in bnei brak. Yeah, exactly. Sagdish Yeshiva. And they weren't talking weren't Megayer. Amalekim. Right. Now, why do we assume Haman's from Amalek? The reason we assume that is because Haman in the Megillah is referred to as Haman ben Amdasa. Agagi. Agag is the king of Amalek. Now, it happens to be that many say that every king from Amalek is known as Agag, not just the Agag that Shaul was busy with. Because I'll tell you, when I was younger, I wondered in Parshas Balak, but in the prophecies of Bilam says the words V'yodem ma'agag malkoi. The Jewish king will be greater than Agag. And I always wondered as a kid, why isn't that clear proof that the Torah foresaw the future? This pasuk was written many years before the story of Shaul and Agag. And the Torah is the only place in the whole Torah where it's a direct prophecy about the future. And how come no one talks about it?
All right.
So this happened many years ago, and then I checked up that every king from Amalek was called Agag. Just like all the kings of Bashan were called Oig, all the kings of Mitzrayim called Paroi, all the kings of Plishtim are called Avimelech. Avram's busy with Avimelech, Yitzchak with Avimelech. He's not the same guy. That was the title, the name of the position was Avimelech. in the Plishtim. So too by Amalek, it was Agag. It was Agag.
They
I
also
think
say
the
Haman
also
is
many.
a title. Some people say.
Haman itself.
Yeah, as a title.
The others was a Greek name.
All right.
I'm
What?
talking of a few.
Yeah, there were a few. Yeah. No, that could be an Einik was named after the
They were
Zayda.
right after each other.
Just like that, there were 3 Daryavishes. They were named after each other. Also Achashverosh. The Vilna Gaon says, why do we say Vayhi b'mei Achashverosh? He is Achashverosh. Why the double expression? Because there were few Achashverosh. So the Megillah is telling you, it was in the days of Achashverosh. Which one? The one that ruled over 127 countries. Not his Zayda that was only a king in Media or Persia. Anyhow. So Haman is called Hagagi. Agag is the king of Amalek. So Haman's an Amaleki. So if Haman's from Amalek, how could his Eineklach have taught Torah in bnei brak? The Medrash, Rabbi Eliezer says in the Medrash that you cannot accept a ger from Amalek. This is a question, simple question.
No, but you could have a Jewish girl with an Amaleki guy.
So there is a sefer that came out called Ner Lemeya, the candle for 100. 100 answers to this question.
For this question.
Just for this question.
All 100 answers?
We're going to go through 50 of them.
Collected on
Collect. Yeah. So I'll just...
a whole sefer just dedicated to this question.
When he made it, it was this. By now, it's already like this. You know, everyone has their own answers. There's
That's incredible. Man,
Yeah.
100.
Lawyer, huh?
Hello, there was Rabbi Yosef Engel. We're going to see Rabbi Yosef Engel was a Chassidic Goin in the times of the Rebbe
Just
Rashab.
about this, are you sure?
Yeah, 1,000% sure. Yeah.
What happened to my father?
Never.
Rabbi Yosef, that Rabbi Tadavam's father used to go on spaziers. We used to walk to accompany Yosef Engel. Rabbi Yosef Engel was one of the biggest goinim before the war. You know, the Rebbe would speak about and compare and contrast him and the Rogatchover. You know, they were in a different world. Rabbi Yosef Engel wrote a sefer called Gvuros Shemoinim. When you're 80 years old, right? It took one kasha, 80 answers. Wow. Some of his answers are 20-page pulpulim just to come up with another answer. Some of in other words, the first couple, answer 32 is like a 20-page pulpul. It was a question about. He wrote another one called Shivim Panim L'Torah. One of them was about. There's an opinion in Gemara who holds that even the owner of a carbon can disqualify their carbon by pigul. Usually it's the kohen that does, if the kohen has something negative in mind when he shechts. But the owners, according to one opinion, even the owner, even while you're doing the avodah, when you're throwing the blood, if the owner has in mind then that I'm going to eat the meat at the wrong time, then a soita, according to the opinion that the woman first has to she brings a carbon mincha out of flour. And according to one opinion, the waters that she drinks will only affect her after she brings the carbon. But she could always invalidate the carbon. That was the kasha. Okay?
Brilliant.
Yeah. No, the kasha is nothing. You think it's the answer. It's the answer. You can't imagine. Some of the answers are 20-page pulpulim. It goes through the entire Torah, chidushim, and after, a 1,000,000-word essay, and now we have another answer. Now we have answer number 35, It's his... so one of his students said, you think he came up with 80 answers, so therefore he called the Sefer Gvuros Shmoinim? No. He wanted to call the Sefer Gvuros Shmoinim. If he would have called it bnei ve'eser, it would have 120 answers,
That's
An
great.
elephant.
That's great.
In other words...
You like that name?
Came up with the
The
name. then
Megala
company.
Amukas, the Megala Amukas has 1,000 explanations on the small aleph in Vayikra.
1,000.
And 252 explanations on Brono, when Moshe in Va'eschanan, Brono, let me go into Eretz Yisrael. Yeah.
Right.
You come up with the title for the shir and then make the shir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyhow, fine.
No.
Megala Amukas, yeah.
1,000 things.
On Vayikra
Just
and
about
Va'eschanan. Yeah. Could you imagine?
Stand before the hunger.
And then you said we had a whole shir about the 2 sins in Yisoscha, right? A whole shir. Can you imagine?
Right.
1,000 shir on the small aleph. All
How
right.
did he remember from the first one that
Right.
he didn't repeat himself at one time throughout the 1,000 answers?
No, you say Shivim
Well,
Panim
lots of the
L'Torah,
things
but
are. Right. Yeah. Anyhow, it's Shivim Panim L'Torah.
Times Shivim.
But no, but it's more because
This thing, angel
it's Shivan
wrote
Panim and
Torah,
Pshat, Remez.
Sefer on halacha on Shabbos.
Not that I believe.
So you were saying, yeah.
Anyhow.
How could it be the Haman?
Oh,
Because
okay.
he was killed. He would. How could it be a Yid?
Could have been.
Yeah, exactly. So so right off the bat, there's actually one source here. I didn't put a number. The bottom left of the first page is a Rambam. Nebuch got stuck in the corner, no source. So we're actually going to start with that one it's a Rambam, okay? It's a Rambam in Hilchos Isurei Bia. The Rambam is discussing any guy that wants to convert, Gesundheit, no problem. However, can any guy that converts marry into the fold? Not so fast. Most, yeah. There are a couple nations that there's a temporary red light. And he says, Mitzri va'adoimi, if a male or a female is Megayer, and you know they're from Mitzrayim, or from Edom, which is Esau's family, Echad Zcharim Echad, the case whether a boy or girl, they can only marry the other people that are on the outlines, other Gerim or this and that. But Dur Rishon, Dur Sheni, them and their kids, Asurin Lova B'Yisrael, cannot marry into the fold. They're Jewish. And they could marry other Gerim, but they can't marry into the Kahal, into the regular fold. But Dur Shlushi, the grandchildren can, Mutter. Shenemar, it's a Pasuk in Kiseit say, the Hashem says very clearly, Bonim Asher Yevoldu Lehem Dur, the third generation can marry in. Now, the Rambam speaks about Mitzri, Adoimi, also Ammon and Moav. It's more serious. By Ammon and Moav, the women are allowed to marry into the fold right away. The men never. The men never. Now we don't know who's from Ammon and Moav, so it's not applicable anymore. What? Sanchev.
Grandkids.
If you know for sure, right? Yeah. Now here's the thing, though. That's all the Rambam says. It's all the Rambam says. So the Chidah, he has a sefer. Whenever I forget the name of the sefer, I remember the name. It's called the Ein Zoicher. I don't remember. It's with an ayin though. Ayin Zoicher. Ein Zoicher. I once said that joke and nobody got the joke. Anyhow, but in his sefer Ein Zoicher, he has a piece about our kasha. He says, the Rambam speaks about Ammon, Moav, Mitzri, Adoimi. The Rambam doesn't give any limitations to Amalek. Amalek is part of Edom. Amalek was Esau's grandson. Esau had a son Eliphaz. Eliphaz has a concubine Timnah. They have a son Amalek. The Rambam in this parak and halachas before is discussing those that are Megayer, and he gives no limitation to Amalek. He just gives him the general rule of Edom. Says the Chidah, you know what Pshat is? The Rambam was bothered by a contradiction between the Mechilta, which has Rabbi Eliezer's opinion that you can't take a ger from Amalek, but the Gemara that says Haman's Einiklach apparently converted. So the Rambam understood it's a machlokes. And if it's machlokes between the Gemara and the Medrash, we go like the Gemara. So therefore the Rambam knew we don't paskin like Rabbi Eliezer and the Medrash, and we hold that if someone's a Megai from Amalek, it's like anyone else from Esav. So that's the Chidah. So according to the Chidah, the Rambam Taka doesn't paskin like this Medrash of Rabbi Eliezer. The story of David. Well, if you look at the Rambam in Hilchos Sanhedrin,
It's not the Rambam that has a problem, it's the Chidah that has a problem.
no, but what's the Chidah? Right, no, but if the Rambam isn't going to fit, that means his hypothesis doesn't work.
Right.
The Rambam himself in the Halachas of Sanhedrin says, he asks how David killed. He says it was Hoyrah Shah, the power of a melech. He doesn't say what exactly it was. Hoyrah Shah. So you see, the Rambam was bothered about the story. Right. It can't because he was Amalek. It was because he murdered Shaul. But it doesn't fit with the general rules of murder. Shaul was gonna die. So the Rambam says it was a Rosh Shah. King has, for the David felt he needs to put his foot down at the time. It was necessary. Why does Rambam give that answer? Because he can't learn it was because the guy was an Amaleki, because Rambam doesn't paskin like that Medrash. That's the Chidah. Fine, off the bat.
But at that point also is considered a melech. Really. The second Shaul dies, no?
Okay. The Mishnah Lamelech has a long arichas. David was already anointed as king while Shaul was alive. And there's a big shaila, so were they both kings at the same time? When Shmuel anointed David while Shaul was alive, what anointment was that? Was that only that I'm anointing you now and the effect will only take place when Shaul's out of the picture, or he was already a king. So the Mishnah Lamelech has he has a sefer called Prashas Drachim, where he has Pulpulim and all the stories of Tanakh, and he goes through many of the stories that happened with David, and many of the debates he had with other people was all ringing around this argument: was he a king? Was he not a king? But either way.
He said he was a son.
Either way, at that point, he was the king.
Yeah.
He was a grandson.
No.
Because he was dead already.
But this is way before the story of Haman.
No,
Unless he was.
You're saying what was the question, Bechlal?
No, he was just a son of
By going, you go after the father. So who was it? His mother wasn't a Jewish woman.
Why is it not 3 generations?
Oh.
The sugar popcorn.
That's by Esav Bechlal. That's by
Is
Esav.
this guy past the generations?
Wait. If you hold on. If you paskin like Rabbi Eliezer in the Medrash, the father's gerus was worthless. It's not gerus. They're still regular Amalekim. According to Rabbi Eliezer, gerus has no halachic effect on Amaleki. The Chidah says the Rambam disagrees. The Rambam holds it does.
3 generations only from now.
That's all in the Rambam.
But couldn't he just kill him because he's an Amaleki?
No, because the Rambam holds that the gerus takes effect.
The next son, not the grandson?
No. Also, no. It's just for marriage. Marriaging into the fold.
Still Jews.
Hold on, let's take Mitzrayim, for example. If someone's Megayah from Mitzrayim, they're a Jew right away. They can't marry a regular Jewish woman till the 3rd generation. But the gerus takes effect right away. The Chidah says, the Rambam holds, so too all of Esav's Einiklich, Amalek included, the gerus takes effect right away. But the statute of waiting till the grandchildren to marry and still applies. So why, to talk according to the Rambam, why did David kill the guy? It's not because the guy's Jewish. He's fully Jewish. It was only because he killed Shaul and fine. That's answer number 1. 99 to go. So I'm just going to give a couple small answers on this, and then we're going to move on to another huge kasha on the Megillah, and we'll see how we're going to see some fascinating things in this. Hopefully it won't take too long. Join me in number 6 for the moment. Join me in number 6. Sorry that it's out. Join me in number 6.
What's the name?
Number 6 is Rabbi Yosef Engel. We just spoke about him. Look at that.
This is the iron angle.
This is Rabbi... No, that's the Chidah, the Ein Zoicher. No, he wrote the 80 answers for that one kasha.
Right, also with an iron.
Rabbi Yosef Engel. He was the walking partner of Rabbi Tannenbaum's father.
Well, why with an iron?
In Australia.
That's how you spell Engel. In Yiddish, Engel. Engel.
Yeah.
He spoke Yiddish. That's the
How
language he spoke.
exactly do you think you should spell it?
With an aleph.
No,
Well, we're not in Israel here. In Yiddish, it's an Ein.
Spell with an E.
Angle.
Engel spelled
Engel.
with
Not an A.
Anyhow. What?
It's not the angle of a
Engel.
like a 40-degree angle.
Engel.
Anglican.
What's the shaila?
Yeah, it's what
Oh, what does it mean? I don't know.
It's
I don't know.
Eng.
Everyone has an
Yeah.
What's your
Maybe.
angle?
Doesn't sound like. Doesn't feel like.
England.
Eng. The Rebbe said about England. England.
Eng is pain.
They're very square.
By the way.
Okay, so there you go.
Isn't eng pain in Yiddish?
Ang.
Yeah.
Eng means
But
like
an eng
square.
is I'm in pain.
No.
No?
No.
Yes.
Okay,
Narrow.
Eng is very square.
Eng is narrow.
Very square.
let's go.
That's what the
Acute, it could be acute pain. Acute also means narrow. Okay, anyhow, let's go weiter. Hello?
Angle.
So this is Rabbi Yosef Engel wrote quite a few sforim. One of them is notes on his Gemaras that were subsequently printed as Gilyoinei Hashas. And on the Gemara in Gittin, we're in number 6. Join me. B'Sefer Tiferet Shloima. His quote, the Tiferet Shloima, which is quoting, was a Chassidish Rebbe, the Radomske. In Purim al HaTorah vayetze Haman, la'arav atzadik Reb Shloima of Radomsk, Salz, the Chassidish Rebbe, Hiksha. He asked the $1 million question. Hamavur b'psikta, it's in the Medrash, the Psikta, it's also in the Mechilta, Piska, in the paragraph of Zohar, Eis HaShaz Amalek. The Ein Mekabel game is Amalek, right? It's brought in that Medrash too. You cannot accept a convert from Amalek. The Imkain, Eich, how could you have Haman's Eineklach Ayin Sham? And then the Rabbi Yosef says, Ukepsikta Hanal, like you find in that, there's a Medrash called the Psikta. It's also in the Mechilta, in the end of Bishalach. It's also in Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer. Makes sense. It's the same Rabbi Eliezer. So says Rabbi Yosef Engel, if you ask me, v'loi kashem midi. It's not shver at all. In fact, it's a very simple answer. The mishkachas, you know what happened? What happened was like this. Be'isha, there was a woman, Mizera Amalek. Haman had a great-great-great-granddaughter, right? So she's from Haman, she's from Amalek. Shenisis la'akum, she married a guy from China. She'einoi Mizera Amalek. This guy is not from Amalek. V'yoldu leben, had a boy. By Goyim, you always follow the father. Da'benahu, that kid, eineno misyachas, does not relate L'zera Amalek to Amalek seed. Deba'akum by Goyim, halach achra zocher, you follow the father, like it's brought in Yevama Sayin Ches. Vim Kain, if that's the case. Habenahu, that boy, v'chol yoytze chalotz of all of his descendants, shapir mekablenoi son. They're stam Goyim, they're Chinese, or whoever that man, whichever nation he came from, that's the halachic status of all the kids forever. V'Alcazar kavana, that's what it means here. It says mi bnei bonov, which lav davka. You know how often the Gemara says bnei bonov, and it doesn't literally mean son. Rak hakavana yotze chalotzav, descendants. In Rashi Psachim, Rashi says there that the Eibishter sent a message to Nebuchadnezzar, and he says, Ben bnei shel Nimrod harasha, the grandson of Nimrod. Nebuchadnezzar is many generations after Nimrod. What do you mean Ben bnei? He's not a grandson. His right? Nimrod is by Avram. Nebuchadnezzar destroyed for 1,000 years. Love Davka. In fact, Tosfos in Chagiga says even better. I know he doesn't quote it. Tosfos says, in fact, that Nebuchadnezzar Bechlal didn't come from Nimrod, because Nimrod comes from Chum, grandson of Chum, and Tosfos proves that Nebuchadnezzar came from was from Ashur, from Shem.
Nebuchadnezzar? It
Yeah.
says it also came from Shlomo and
Yeah. No, but in other words, but he's from the Shevet of. He was from Shlomo through a daughter that Shlomo had with the Queen of Sheba.
Right.
But from Nebuchadnezzar's father's side, his paternal lineage goes back to Shem. So Tosfos says he Bechlal didn't even come from Nimrod. The Eibishter was just saying you're as if you're acting like you're acting in the same way as him, right?
Okay, so that makes sense.
So for sure over here, Haman's grandson can mean that there was a daughter in the middle, right?
Why not just say it's a Jewish lady with the
I will say that.
But why
Don't worry,
don't
we will
they?
say.
No, but why don't they
Beg-
contemplate it? Why doesn't Rabbi Engel contemplate it? Why
Because
don't-
how
why
could
not
a
Haman?
Jewish how could a Jewish lady marry a Haman's Anikel? It's a guy. Can't be
Maybe
Megayer.
Bastilga.
So we're gonna see. There's a kohen who says he's actually. Sorry, the kohen were very. I'll get to that right now because you mentioned that.
No.
I'm gonna jump some numbers down.
You know that by a kohen, there's a special din by a kohen that if he wants to write a get to his wife, the get has to be folded and made in a way which takes a while to create
Hot
the
tempers.
get. Because they have hot tempers, if they divorce their wife, can't remarry. So therefore, there's a whole. It's a much longer process for a kohen to give it to make sure that it's not spur of the moment.
Bastilga is positive.
Yeah,
Rabbi Bastilga is definitely positive.
Maybe she's a celebrity.
No,
She's
but
a celebrity.
it's a
Celebrity.
celebrity. What do you have to go there for? It's a regular guy, a guy with Megayer.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Also, so listen.
That could be the reason.
So I want to tell you like this.
It's interesting.
Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin was he passed away in the year 1900. So he was Reb Marash's times, Reb Rashab's times. He was known. He was an incredible Gaon, a brilliant mind. He was known as the Kohen. He's known as HaKohen. They call him the Kohen.
Who wrote the Torah in his speech? Went to sleep?
While he was sleeping, he wrote a sefer called Divrei Chalomus.
No, I thought
Chalomus.
Kohen is also. No?
While he was sleeping, I don't know. I know that
When
he
he
wrote.
woke up, he used to write it what he's...
Yeah, it's called Divrei Chalomus. That when he woke up, he wrote the dreams that he had. But right while he's sleeping,
Not
doesn't-
while he was sleeping. When he woke up, he wrote what
Divrei Chalomus. Yeah, he called it Divrei Chalomus. Divrei
That's
Chalomus.
Freud
It's
and
in Tzaddik HaKohen itself.
that's Freud and Jung.
You're right, but he was
No?
He called it
Tzaddik
Divrei.
HaKohen itself.
No, it's not called. So there's no sefer called it. It's called Pri Tzaddik.
Besides that,
Was he from the
in
Ishmael?
Tzaddik HaKohen.
Tzaddik HaKohen didn't name any of his forum after his name. He wrote Pri Tzaddik, and he wrote Rasisei Laila. He wrote other things, numerous Yisrael Kedoshim, and he wrote Divrei Chalomus. The Rebbe actually, Rabbi Yoel Khan said this, that the Rebbe in one of the sikhs, in the early sikhs, when they was putting it out, the Rebbe wanted to quote something from Reb Tzadok HaKohen Sefer, Resisei Laila.
Right, I have that.
The Rebbe, you're right. So the Rebbe, then there was no copies yet in America of Resisei. So, didn't, this was in the 60s or whatever. So the Rebbe, from memory, copied about 2 or 3 lines from what he had seen decades before.
This is Elila's.
And then the Sefer came to America. I guess in the 60s we didn't have the Sefer. Then it finally came to America. So Rabbi Yoel was involved with the notes and he checked it up. It was mamish almost word for word.
Yeah, it's a famous story.
Right.
Spectacular.
He says the Rebbe wanted to quote. The Rebbe could have just said, I'm not quoting, I don't have the Sefer.
Sefer came out.
In America?
1959.
Yeah,
I don't know, I
I got
wasn't-
it for a mitzvah present.
Really?
1958.
Oh wow, look at that. Okay, so whenever it was.
It was
So you know what? Maybe the Rebbe was looking for a copy. You could have. You were in Canada. Where were you?
Australia.
New York
So
City.
where were you? You were in New York City. So the Rebbe needed the Sefer, didn't have the Sefer. The Rebbe often says the Ein Sefer. I don't have the Sefer. So the Rabbi Yoel said the Rebbe could have just left out the quote, but the Rebbe wanted the quote and had no Sefer. Then quote from memory. Anyhow, so Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin, he was by the Ishbitzer. Yeah. He was. He actually divorced. Was a whole story.
you talked about it once.
He had something happened. People had an issue with his shver, and they thought that if they would create a scandal about Tzadok Cohen's wife and cause a divorce and disrupt the whole family, that would be their form of vengeance. And the scandal was that his wife was seeing a goy, and in fact, Reb Tzadok even saw once his wife with the goy, and he thought that as a kohen, he didn't see any intimacy happen, but he thought as a kohen he has to divorce her. She didn't want to get. He divorced her against her will. Rabbeinu Gershon says he can't. So he needed to get a heter of 100 rabbis to allow him to divorce his wife.
Wow.
Or to marry a new wife, or to divorce his wife against her will. So he went to many rabbonim, and the Chassidish Rebbe's Bechlal were much slower to give. He was a brilliant master. He came and he convinced everybody. The Chassidish Rebbe's were much slower to give haskama, and the only one who refuted his claims and put him in his place was the Chidushei Harim, was the first Gerer Rebbe, who was also a brilliant scholar, who was older than him. And Reb Tzadok said, the only one that was actually, but he didn't give up. He said, all right, I'll go to other rabbis. Apparently he got his Meir Rabbanim, and anyways. So Reb Tzadok HaKohen says, you know what the story was over here? What was the name of Haman's Einikel? Rav Shmuel Bar Shelas. Is Shelas a man's name or a woman's name? It's a woman's name. What's going on over here? So there's a story in Gemara. Shmuel, the great Amora Shmuel, suffered a personal tragedy. 2 of his daughters were captured by Goyim and were forced to marry Goyim. They were raped. One of them was Rachel, and she was taken into marriage by a guy named Isser, a guy named Isser. She conceived a baby. Before the baby was born, this Isser decided to convert. After he violated this Rachel, Shmuel's daughter, Shmuel the Amora, he decides to convert. This boy was born. He's called Rav Mori, the son of Rachel, who's the daughter of Shmuel. We don't call him Rav Mori, the son of Isser the convert. He has no connection to him. So says Reb Tzadok.
Even if he converts, if it's after conception.
Yeah, because after conception, the guy's out of the picture. He has no more connection. Had he convert a couple months earlier, it would have been a different story. Can you imagine such an that he converted? And
Did he stay with her?
not that we know of. No, it's not recorded. There is an inyan that if a Yid and a Goy are together, while one of them is a Goy, then when they convert, they shouldn't be with each other. It's not a biblical law, but there is an inyan in halacha. So you would assume that if he did a proper conversion, he would have kept that halacha. And not,
Because
imagine he would have. He's like imagine that. This Amor is his kid, but Al Torah they have no relation. Anyhow, so Tzadok says, Haman had an Einikel? Yeah, ben achar ben, bnei bonov is a ben. This guy rapes a woman called Shelas. She didn't willingly marry him. He raped her. Just like what happened with Shmuel's daughter. And then this kid was born. That's why he's named after his mother. Who's his father? You don't want to know. The father is Einikul of Haman. So the kid never had to be Megayer, because we paskin, it's machlokes in Gemara, but the halach is that we paskin, that if a Goyish man, a Jewish woman, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, the kid's Jewish. So the kid never had to go through Gerus. But the kid is technically bnei bono shel Haman.
Sure.
That's what, so you have, that's what the Tzaddik
Just
HaKohen
the
is.
Shep is like Shmuel.
She didn't do it.
Yeah.
Against
Shmuel
her
was
will.
a Kohen.
But that goes against the halacha. You say
Shmuel was
he's
a
not
Kohen.
really the
His
father.
daughters were Baska.
Well, you just said he's not really the father.
Oh,
Why would the Gemara call him?
Good kasha. So the Tzaddik isn't, okay, so no, so he pulls out a raya. Parshas Emor, you have a story.
You don't have one, I have one.
The Megadif, the cursor. Who was the cursor? There was a woman called Shloimis Bas Divri, who was from the Shevet of Dan. She's married to Dosa, who rather comes from Reuven. She was violated by a Mitzri, who was a Gilgal of Cain, right? And she conceives from the Mitzri. She has a boy. Dosan, by the way, knew the boy wasn't his, but he raised him.
Right. They say that was one of
By
the
the
things they say
way,
was a good.
Dosan, by the way, many say Dosan was one of the shoitrim that would take it on the back instead of hitting any other Jew. That's why Dosan had a problem with Moshe. He told Moshe, "You never suffered with us in Mitzrayim. You were busy enjoying the king's palace and in Midian. Not."
You're a Levi.
Dosan said, "Look at my back. You'll see what it means to suffer." That's why Dosan had a problem with Moshe. Anyhow. But this boy grows up, and in Parshas Emor, there's the episode, the Yidden divide into their Shvatim, so he wants to set up a tent by the camp of Dan. They tell him, your mother's from Dan, but your Shvatim go after the father, your father was a Mitzri, so he blew it, and he cursed, and he ended up getting killed, Wow. Anyhow, but this guy, how does the Torah refer to him? It says, a guy went out, the son of a Jewish woman and the son of an Egyptian man. So you see, even though his mother was Jewish, the Torah does refer to the fact that he did have an Egyptian father.
Yeah,
So if the Torah can do that, definitely the Gemara in its
Shloimis
lingo.
Bas Divri doesn't say the Mitzri's name.
But he says, V'hu ben ish Mitzri.
So then,
Ben
according to
Ish Mitzri.
halacha, why are you saying the father's nothing?
The
Torah
Gemara
says-
says, no, the Gemara already proves from different other psukim. No.
But
We
by the way,
have
by the
we have
converted
numerous
case,
other
those are
psukim
different.
that prove that by
No?
Goyim you go after the father, and by the way, there are shittas that by a yid you need both parents to be Jewish. There are shittas in Gemara, but the Shulchan Aruch doesn't. We don't paskin that way. There were some that paskin that way, but the Shulchan Aruch doesn't paskin that way.
Dina's son, they called him they referenced
Her
that.
daughter,
Yeah.
Dina and Shechem. That was before.
Yeah, so
Is there a
that counts,
shita
yeah.
that it used to go by the father?
No. Osnas. The kid that Dina had with Shechem. Shol ben Aknanis was Shimon's kid that he had with Dina.
Right.
Dina was called Knanis because she had been
So
raped
it's
by
a
Shechem.
reference but she was not a Canaanist.
She was called Knanis because she had been raped by a Knanis.
But so there's a
Fair enough.
something
Point
to
taken.
calling-
Point taken. Fine.
Is there a shita that it used to go by the father until Ezra?
Rav Asi, one opinion in Gemara holds that even now, to be a Jew only goes by the father. There is one opinion.
father?
One opinion.
Until Ezra.
So someone said maybe on Mitzrayim you should, there's one according to one opinion. This guy is Jewish.
Start putting tefillin on way more people.
No. But what's
No,
the
but we don't pass that way. No one passes that way.
so maybe is that connected to what the Rebbe said when you have a gay or
Magar.
something when
Gayrus Luchumra.
no,
What?
that
What? What are you
somebody
talking about?
after the fact when they are Megayer, assuming you don't push
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but then there was always some connection to do it.
Oh,
No.
well, some Kabbalists hold that anyone that's Megaya really comes from the 10 lost tribes. The Chidah famously says that the Gemara refers to a convert as Gershen is Gayer, a convert that converts. It should say Goyshen is Gayer.
Sure.
It must. So the Chidah says even before he converted, he had a Jewish neshama, which is the reason why he converted.
I'm talking about a warmth.
Through the
that
gators
about
has
us, if you
become
have a mixed
revealed.
marriage that more open to conversion is the idea. If the father was Jewish or no, is there a concept?
I thought the Rebbe spoke about that.
Apparently, there is some. It's not a halachic concept because we don't pass like Ravasi.
Just
But,
another side
maybe,
point. I don't know if you ever read the biography of Frierdiker Rebbe when he was saved from the Nazis by a Nazi named Blach.
Whose
His
father
father
was
was Jewish, and the Frierdiker Rebbe speaks about
right.
it That there was something that he's
Epistor.
not already epistapintically.
Maybe something.
Familiar with what I'm talking about?
Not offhand. Not offhand.
I'll give you the biography.
Who they talking about?
The rest.
The Bloch, who was involved in the Friedrich Rebbe's rescue, and the Friedrich Rebbe mentioned, the Friedrich Rebbe addressed the fact that this guy
He felt
had
that
Jewish
his
blood in
shlichus
him.
was, and that's why he saved the Friedrich
There
Rebbe.
was a book upstairs I had like 50 years, 45 years ago upstairs. They used to Nachshon Hitler. His great-grandfather was Jewish.
Find that on the internet.
Yeah, that's
No,
it.
he
His
came
father
from his
was
father's side. His great-grandfather was a
He
Jew.
was, they called Mishling. Mishling.
Anyhow, so far we have a couple answers. Fine. So, okay, where do we go, Carl? We have so much. All right. Okay, all right. Fine. I'm not even where we. No, because we have to. All right. All right.
Oh, that was just start earlier. We've been begging for years.
We're going to now focus on another big kasha, which sounds separate but is related to the first, and you'll see where we're going to go with this. In order to get to the second kasha, we need a couple of introductions. One of them is the big debate between the Rishonim when it comes to destroying Amalek, which is what we're going to read about this week, Parshas Zohar, the mitzvah in the end of Parshas Kiseitse, to destroy Amalek. What exactly do you have to destroy? So, by the way, just to put it out there, many people ask, it sounds so barbaric to kill out a nation. How could you do that? The truth is, there's not much difference between Amalek and any other guy. If an Amaleki wants to keep the 7 mitzvahs, he can. And if he does, he's no longer considered an Amaleki. He's considered a good guy. Chsidei U'Masaylam, a Ger Toshev. It's only if they refuse. If they refuse, any guy could be put to death because they get the death penalty for those 7 anyhow. So the difference just is that for Amalekim you're supposed to hunt them out, and for other goyim it's not so much. But really the difference is very slim. If an Amaleki does the 7 mitzvahs, he gets spared. To become a ger tzedek, that we saw, that was the whole first issue. But to be a ger toshev, the Rambam says he can. Fine. But when it comes to destroying them, when you have to, let's say it's a war, and let's say it's warranted, what do you have to destroy? Just the people? What about the animals? What about the possessions? There are 3 opinions. The opinion of the Rambam and the Sefer HaChinuch is only the people. It's only the people. When Shmuel had to fight against when Shmuel told Shaul to fight against Amalek, he tells him the animals, Hayras shows just for that time. But if you look in Parshas Kiseitse, when it says destroy the Zecher, the remembrance, it means the people of Amalek. That's it, always the people. That's opinion number 1. Rashi disagrees. Rashi holds you always have to destroy the animals. The story with Shaul was not just for that time, it's for all time. You always destroy the animals. Look in number 5, I have the Rashi. It's a Rashi in Chumash. In fact, Rashi says number 5, when Hashem says, Timche Zecher Amalek, destroy the remembrance, Rashi's bothered. Why does it say the remembrance? It should say the Zerah, the seed of Amalek. Says Rashi, it means Ish Adisha, Me'el Adyon, Mishor V'Adseh, it includes the animals. He's quoting from the story of Shmuel. Rashi learns the reason that Shmuel told Shaul to kill the animals because that's the mitzvah always. Where's the source? Because in Parshas Kiseitse, the Yidden were told to destroy the Zecher. Rashi continues. If there's a beautiful horse that once belonged to Amalek, right? And now a Yid possesses it, whenever you see it, like, that horse, it's going to remind everyone of Amalek. Shelo Yehei Shem Amalek Nisker, the name should not be remembered, even on an animal, loimer to say this animal belonged to Amalek. So Rashi holds the mitzvah, in fact, includes animals too. So he disagrees with the Rambam and the Sefer HaChinuch.
What's the heck of what that Rashi is?
From the word Zecher, Zecher.
Who said that's halachas?
Timche
Rashi
Zecher.
a lot of svarim. What's the heck of that say that's
No,
halachas?
what do you mean? Rashi's telling you what the mitzvah is, telling you what pshat in the mitzvah is.
Well, why? Because you could remember it
You mean it's
through
not
Amalek?
halacha?
Because if you don't
But what
destroy
about
the
people
animals,
who killed Amalek? You could say, oh, he killed Amalek.
Okay, yeah,
up
be
to a
reasonable.
point.
Be reasonable. You can't.
Okay.
No, but the animals are a zecher. The fact that the Torah used the funny word of zecher when it comes to killing the 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael, it says loy sechaya kol. Don't let the people live. Why here does it change to zecher? It's coming to add something. The animals.
Didn't Rashi go to say?
Oh, but Rashi holds the possessions are okay. The Rebbe has a sikha. I didn't put on the Rebbe. The Rebbe has a sikha. The Rebbe explains in a sikha that according to Rashi, it's only something which is alive that really carries the name of its owner, not something which is dead. Something which is dead doesn't carry the name of its owner.
The building says Lambda Yeshiva.
Knock off the name. Knock off the name. That's what the Rebbe, the whole sikha, but it's a chele gedal. I don't have in the Rebbe has a sikha about this Rashi. The Rebbe learns that
Animals are called animals from different
something
places.
which is alive can carry the name of its owner.
Are Arabian horses. That's a very famous horse. They're Jersey cows or whatever. They come from different areas. They call them.
Floridian
Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, no, there's different animals are called from this place. So if you have a horse, it's called the Amalek horse.
The one a
Gotta
couple of
kill it.
Kentucky Derbies
Paradise.
first.
But he's explaining what the mitzvah is. His Rashi explaining what the mitzvah is. Oh, but here's the. You know what's a crazy thing? If you look in Rashi on Sefer Shmuel, on the war that we're going to read in the Haftarah this week, that you're going to read in Yirtzeh Hashem, that Shmuel tells Shaul to fight Amalek. Rashi there says, why was Shaul instructed to kill the animals? Rashi says a whole new pshat. The Amalekim were sorcerers, and they could metamorphosize themselves into animals. So Rashi says, if you only kill the people, it's you're saying of a failure. You know, the law just metamorphosized animals. So you have to kill the animals because each one is possible to be a human. Very different pshat than here. Very different pshat than here. But here in Chumash, he says, part of the mitzvah is the animals. So you have the Rambam in the Sefer Chinuch, it's only the people. Rashi in Parshas Kiseitz includes the animals, that's the word Zecher. And then you have Rabbeinu Bechaya, look in number 7. Rabbeinu Bechaya says it's even the possessions. He doesn't say you have to destroy the possessions, but he says you can't have any benefit from the possessions. Part of the war of Amalek is any of their possessions is forbidden to have benefits. And we'll see that's why people don't get German cars. We'll see if we get there. Number 7. It comes from here. Well, I grew up in Australia where we had in Melbourne there was a very
Big
large
Holocaust
percentage
community.
of Holocaust. One of very few people were Holocaust survivors. And these people, you know, to go into a Mercedes or a BMW was
When we were kids, for sure. Everybody would talk about Beth
I
Israel.
thought
I
Rabbanim
remember.
also gave it.
Was
this,
it
you know.
drive better?
yes, sir. Well,
That's from there.
Yeah.
Circulating.
No, Jackie Mason. Anything over 8
but
bucks.
here,
They
I
drive
don't know,
so
now,
good.
now
They drive good.
Now it's become
the engineering.
They
Yeah.
drive so fast.
Yeah, what's his name? Mason's always making fun of the Yidden having their Mercedes and everything. But in Australia,
Ultimate driving machine.
who's that?
Oh,
I don't know. But I'm telling you, in Australia, they
Very strict.
wouldn't. But the Hergish, they wouldn't.
It's different owners, no?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
not
I
BMW.
forget. And BMW, they
BMW
made
still
the
the family
crematoriums.
that were-
Crematoriums. Hitler himself was
IBM, I thought.
was
IBM.
the
Service.
CEO of
I
what's it
heard
called? What's the
IBM.
no
IBM.
Service. The,
Volkswagen.
IG
Volkswagen.
Volkswagen.
Hitler was the CEO of Volkswagen,
Volkswagen.
and now Volkswagen owns all these fancy cars. I told Bochum you can't buy some of these.
BMW is still
No,
owned.
you can't buy
Benz is
Bentley,
not.
right? No Bentleys.
BMW is still owned
Rolls
by the
Royce,
same
only
family
Rolls Royce,
that
no
was
Bentleys.
involved
Bentley's owned
in
by,
Porsche.
No way.
Ferdinand Porsche.
No.
Anyhow,
And
Porsche,
Ferdinand
exactly.
Porsche.
Yeah,
Same
Ferdinand
thing.
was a friend. He designed the uniforms. The BMW people were the
Crematoriums. So yeah.
He drove
And they
he
still
drove
own
a
it.
Mercedes.
They still own it.
back to
Daimler
the
Benz is
ranch.
no longer the same.
Back to the ranch.
Audis also. They're all
Audi's
all
not.
all
Audi was made by Yamaha
Only
too.
Japanese, huh?
He has,
That's it. Yeah, that's good.
Mendel, he has a good story with that. He'll tell you after.
Tesla.
Tell the story. Okay, right. Anyhow, weiter. So says, look at number 7. Says Rabbeinu Bechaya. Rabbeinu Bechaya says a fascinating thing. If you'll notice in the Megillah, the story in the Megillah, it was in the 12th year of Achashverosh's reign. I'm just going to say, just drop a background, just put everything in perspective. In the 12th year of Achashverosh's reign, during Nisan is when Haman made the lots, on the 13th of Nisan. Right away, Mordechai finds out about it. The Yidden fast for 3 days. Esther goes in. You have the 2 meals. Haman gets killed. All happened at the beginning Pesach time in the 12th year of Achashverosh's reign. The war, though, was destined to happen the following Adar, 11 months later. When the war came, the Yidden killed 75,000 people. Who were those people that fought with the Yidden? Because in the interim, it was 11-month interim. 3 months in, during Sivan, it was Chav Gimel Sivan, the Megillah says, is when Achashverosh allowed Esther and Mordechai to write out the second letters, allowing the Yidden to defend themselves. All the Goyim heard about it. Many Goyim converted to Yidden. Mordechai became a celebrity, and the Goyim were afraid of the Yidden. And yet, when Adar came, boom, there were 75,000 people that nevertheless fought and died. So the Medrash, the Targum, the Aramaic Medrash in the Megillah says, they were all Amalekim. They came out of the woodwork, they couldn't hold themselves back. They fought and they died.
Think it was any different?
They were Amalekim. Now what does it say about the war? Uvabiza lo sholchu es yadam. The Yidden didn't take the plunder. Why? Says Rabbeinu Bechayil mipnei zeh. Nizar, number 7. Nizar Mordechai B'Dover. Mordechai was careful. Shaloi lehonis, not to have benefit. Mishlal Haman. It means the 75,000 people and Haman's kids, whatever. Shahaya Mizera Amalek, who came from Amalek. Ke'inyan shekasav b'puramas Haman, like it says, by the punishment of Haman. Now, this is not Mamash Haman. Haman was killed Pesach time. This is 11 months later. It means Haman's what do you call the cohorts? They did not extend their hands. Because the Torah says you can't take their money. Timche zecher Amalek. Rabbeinu Bechai says it includes the actual property. So the Rambam and the Sefer HaChinuch limited to the people. Rashi and Chumash takes it to the animals. Rabbeinu Bechai says even the possessions. So what's the problem?
Yeshua, you say also about Bisa Leishalchu, they also didn't take Bisa.
What by eye?
I was also,
Yeah, but to show for another reason, not
specific thing.
because
Okay, but fine. But here was because they were Amalekim. So here's the $1 million kasha. Here's another kasha which has not 100 answers but many answers. When Haman was killed that Pesach, it says Achashverosh took Haman's palace away. And what did he do to the palace? He gave it to Esther, who gave it to Mordechai. Yeah. Haman's palace was kosher. I didn't get it. When they fight the 75,000 people 11 months later, they don't touch anything. It's Amaleki possessions. Haman himself, they took his house. They took Haman's house. One of the biggest kashas in the book.
Syndication.
So how do you answer this kasha?
Since the king took it.
Yeah, he took it first.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Money laundered.
So hold on. So this question also has lots of answers, but there are a couple answers which are going to answer both questions, which is really the crux of this. We're going to finish it right now. What?
It's also considered Bisa.
Good question. Yeah, it's their possessions. According to Rabbeinu Bechai, said more right. It retains their name, right? Because it can't pass away from hand to hand. Everyone's going to remember. You could be sure when people pass by that house, everyone remembered. Now Mordechai's in Haman's house.
The estate
right?
dove. They still have thousands.
They
of
probably
years
still
later.
had the gallows that Haman was hanging from. They probably. Anyhow,
Later.
so join me on the next page. So what do we have over here is like this. I'm going to throw out very quickly just a couple answers for that question, and then we're going to see a few things that will answer both and really give a whole crazy perspective. So off the bat, some of you gave a simple answer. Look at number 8. Tana Rabbanon. This is a Gemara in Sanhedrin. Haruge Malchus, if someone's killed by the king, if a Yiddish king kills someone, we're at number 8. Nichsein lemelech. The king gets their property. This is what the Chachamim hold. Haruge Bezdin, if Bezdin kills someone, they don't get the guy's money. Nichsein liyorshin goes to the inheritors. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, no. Even if a king kills someone, he doesn't get the money. Af haruge malchus, even if a king kills someone, nichsein liyorshin, it goes to the inheritors. The debate is if a Jewish king kills someone because the guy rebelled against the king, does the king get the guy's money? Chachamim hold, yeah. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Amrule, they told Rabbi Yehuda, we have a proof. V'aloi kvar nemer, a famous story. There was a king called Achav, who his holiday palace was next to a vineyard, Naboth's vineyard, the Kerem of Novos. Achav wanted it. Novos said it's not for sale. Achav's wife Izebel arranged the death of Novos, and Achav got the land anyhow. So Hine Bekedem Novos in the vineyard of Novos, Asher Yarad Sham L'Rishta, that Achav went to inherit. So what do you see from there? The Chacham say, if the king kills you, he gets your property. So Amalek Yehuda said, no. Achav was a first cousin of Novos. He inherited it not because he was the king, because he was actually a relative. Ben Achiv is a relative.
Makes sense.
So the Chacham say, what do you mean? Novos had many kids. Novos had many kids.
She knifed them all.
If Achav took it, it must be he took it as a king. Says Rabbi Yehuda, no. Achav killed exactly the entire family.
Izevel did it.
Yeah. Well, Amalek Oisei Vezbon of Harag. Well, the Gemara blames Oisei Vezbon of Harag. He killed the whole family. Shenemar, like Achav was rebuked by Eliyahu Hanavi, who was the prophet then. Im loyes bnei Novos bnei Bonav reisi.
They couldn't get him on treasons. They just murdered him.
So the Chachamim say no. Rabbana hu bonim haruyin lotzes. Chachamim say no. He had no kids. Those were kids that he would have had. So Eliyahu rebukes Achav. He says, you know, blood you have on your hands, not just Novos, but all the kids that you didn't let him have. But
Okay. So how's the proof?
So here's the thing. Rashi on the Gemara says this is true by a Jewish king, because Hashem told Yeshua, anyone that rebels against you, you can kill him. Mashma from Rashi, a Goyish king does not have the power for this. The Rambam, though, when he codifies this halacha, it's mashma any king, Yidden or Goyim, have the. Because we pass on like Chachamim, that the king gets the. The Rambam holds it's whether a Jewish king, whether a Goyish king. Rashi holds only Jewish. The Rashba in a tshuva says he doesn't know. The Rashba actually deals with it. He asks, what about a Goyish king? He ends off with a stalemate. He doesn't know. So you have Rashba who's not sure, Rashi who says only Jewish, the Rambam who says even a Goy. If you'll go like the Rambam, it's even a Goyish king. So when Achashverosh kills Haman, Achashverosh acquires Haman's home. Haman's home now becomes Persian money. It's no longer Amaleki money. It purifies itself in Achashverosh's back pocket, and then Achashverosh gives it to Esther and Mordechai. But when it comes to killing the 75,000 people the following Adar, it was a war. All those people are Amalekim. You can't take their possessions because no one's taking it in the interim. That's the difference. That's one difference. The Rebbe quotes this answer by Fabrengen. The Rebbe by Fabrengen, on Purim Fabrengen, he quoted this answer. What?
Just those 75. Just those 75,000 that we fought.
Who were the ones that decided to fight the
Mordechai
Yidden
owned them.
after Mordechai? It was all Amalek.
Mordechai's Eved.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Fine, that's one answer. There's another answer. I actually have a whole arichus on this, a personal answer, but that'll take a while. But a simple answer, the Brisker Rav says he was the Chaim Brisker's son, the Velvel of Brisk. He spent the last years in Yerushalayim. He was alive when the Rebbe gave out his first Maimer, Bosilagani. He learned it and he said, the Lubavitcher Rebbe thinks he's Mashiach. That's what he said. He understood the Maimer, he got the message. He was a big Misnagid, but actually he once said, we have to reignite the war of the Vilna Gaon against the Chassidim. But the Brisker Rav. We have to reignite the war of the Vilna Gaon against the Chassidim, but only against Breslov and Lubavitch. Because they're the only authentic Chassidim
the
today.
other ones are davening in.
That's what he said. Exactly. Anyhow, the Brisker Rav says like this. He says, if you notice in this Haftarah, when Shmuel approaches Shaul, he says, Shaul, God made you a king. You have to destroy Amalek. Why did Shaul need to hear that from Shmuel? Doesn't Shaul know that every king has a mitzvah to destroy Amalek? Why was he waiting to get this message from Shmuel? You don't wait till a Navi tells you to put on tefillin. You have a mitzvah, The Brisker Rav says, no. Whenever it comes to a war against Amalek, you need a Navi to set off the war. Just like in Parshas B'Shalach, Moshe was the Navi he told Yeshua to fight. That was the fight with Amalek. So too over here. The king needs to hear from the prophet.
Why? Because it's a dangerous war, or it's
Because in Parshas B'Shalach, Hashem says, the war of Amalek is mine, Milchama Hashem. In Parshas Kiseitz, it says, you fight. How does it work? God will tell you when to fight. It's a mix. Special war, because it's such a crazy war, only when you get the message from God to do it. That's another answer to it. It's barbaric. It's only if God says to do it, then obviously God knows when the time is right. So, right. Oh, so Rishkov says like this. When it comes to destroy, when they killed Haman, whose idea was it to kill Haman? It was Achashverosh. Achashverosh came in, he sees Haman lying on the bed with Esther, kill him! So, who set the war off against Haman? Achashverosh. So there was no official war against Amalek going on, and therefore the prohibition of their possessions didn't yet begin. Hold on. Then Esther begs Achashverosh, in 11 months from now, the Goyim are going to fight. We need permission to self-defense. Achashverosh says, no problem, write yourself new letters. Esther wrote those letters. Esther's a prophet. So she gave she set in the laws of the war. So when they killed the 75,000 people, it was a war against Amalek. She can't have can't have benefit from the possessions. That's what the Briskadov says. But I want to share with you a couple things. Hold on. Hold on. One more answer for that question. One more of that question.
Not the answer.
One. So then I won't tell you my answer. One more answer for this question, and then
We already know where your heart's at.
we're done in less than 15, 20 minutes. We're done. 15 minutes. We're done.
And Kanetsky's answer's one.
No. This one is a whopper. You have to. I want to see if you feel it holds water. There's another big debate in the Rishonim.
Wow.
When it comes to Amalek, there's a few mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah to destroy them. There's also a mitzvah to remember what they did to us. That's Parsha Zocher. There's a mitzvah to be moiche, and there's a mitzvah of Zocher, to remember. When it comes to the mitzvah, the Sefer HaChinuch has a whopping chiddush. Look at number 10. In number 10, there's a Sefer HaChinuch, one of the Rishonim. And he says, V'noi Heges, you have number 10, the bold is the Sefer HaChinuch. He says, V'noi Heges, mitzvah zu b'chol makom u'b'chol zman. The mitzvah to remember Amalek is everywhere, always. B'scharim, only men. Ki lohem lasas hamachama, because only the men fight against Amalek. And to take vengeance, loy l'noshim, not for women. The Sefer HaChinuch says here a few whoppers. He says, there's two mitzvahs to remember and destroy, but they're linked. Only those that have to destroy have a mitzvah to remember. Women are not part of the mitzvah of destroying, they're not part of the war. They don't have to remember. That's the shit of the Sefer HaChinuch. That's why the women come to shul this Shabbos. In Russia, most women didn't go to shul Parsha Zocher. They relied on the Sefer HaChinuch that they're potter. Now we're machmir. Now we became machmir that many women come to shul. The Magen Avraham says that the mitzvah of Parsha Zocher, you could be yotze on Purim if you come right before the Megillah reading, when they lay in Vayovi Amalek, which is the story in the end of B'Shalach, the actual fight, you could be yotze the mitzvah of remembering then as well. So look at the Minchas Chinuch right next to it.
Stop the recording.
Don't you need a melech to do this? You need a melech also.
Yeah, that's another big debate. So the Minchas Chinuch over here says, I have two issues with this Sefer HaChinuch. He says, number one, women are chayiv in the war. When it comes to a Milchemes Mitzvah, when it comes to an obligatory war, the Gemara says even the kala from her chuppah you take. Women do have to go. He says, what's he talking about? And secondly, he says, even if they're potter from the war, who said that the mitzvah of remembering is dependent on the mitzvah of the destruction? Like he finishes off, look halfway down. Halfway down, the first word of the line is Hey Dalad. We're number 10. Gam mi amad b'soid Hashem. Who knows the secrets of God that the reason to remember is connected to the destruction? Im atam is because of vengeance. No, maybe it's a decree of God. You should remember me'ez atam, and we don't know why. And maybe when Mashiach comes, when Amalek is gone, we're still going to remember. Meaning, who told the Sefer HaChinuch the reason you have to remember is in order to, therefore, destroy when you have the time? Who said that's true? And even if it is true, women are part of the mitzvah of the destruction. It's a Milchemes mitzvah. So therefore, the Minchas Chinuch argues. The Minchas Chinuch, he finishes off the paragraph. Venira, he says, I think that they're chayiv. It's a mitzvah's essay not bound by time. It pertains to women. Very unusual for him to, he's 600 years after the Sefer HaChinuch, 500 years after him, and he argues on him. But I'll call upon him, so someone suggests.
In the times of Yeshua, but Yeshua, the ladies didn't go out. They helped with the food and everything else.
It's part of the war. It's part of, you think, some of the men also help in the food. Fil kala mechupasa, the Gemara says, they have to be there. Milchemes chayva, they have a chiyuv to defend.
But they didn't go out. The ladies didn't go out.
They're chayiv in the war, though. They participate in the war. They participate in the war.
With helping out with the food.
However it is, but they participate in the war.
Where do you come up with
No,
that?
even that's called going out to war. That's halachically going. Afilu kala mechupasa, even a kala.
Fight with gears,
The Gemara says that.
Rabbi Tarabah, maybe they clean the floors.
Whatever. But
That's part of the war.
It's part of the war.
War effort.
Cooks.
Believe me, in those
Right, that's
days,
part of the
they
war
were with
effort.
to hold the spear.
Yeah, there. Let's. So some suggest like this. Listen to this. Listen to this. If you go like the Sefer HaChinuch that women are not chayiv in the war, I mean they're not chayiv to destroy Amalek, then for them it should be permitted to benefit from their possessions, right? Rabbeinu Bechai's Isur won't apply to them because they're not bechlal the chiv of destroying Amalek. First, Achashverosh gives the palace to Esther, not to Mordechai. The pasuk says he gave it to Esther. Beis Haman nasati la Esther. Then Esther gave. Why was it integral that Esther got it first?
Because they weren't.
Because if you go to the Sefer HaChinuch, Esther was allowed to have benefit from the house. Therefore, the house became kosher Jewish money, and then it was purified in her hands, and then it was cleansed, and then what?
Achashverosh learned the Tosfos and he learned the Chinuch.
No, Mordechai was the one who was able to accept
Yeah. Right,
Achashverosh
Mordechai. But that's why the Megillah makes a point of pointing it out. But here's the issue, though. So it says it's an interesting answer. It works. The issue is, though, that when Esther and Mordechai were husband and wife, anything a woman acquires, kol masha konsa isha, goes to her husband. The achronim, he gets the. Even though the item itself she acquires becomes hers, the husband gets the right to use it. The payers, it's called, gets the right to use it. But how does it work? Does it first become the woman and then it transfers, the husband gets rights? Or does it go directly? The woman's like her husband's outstretched hand. It's machlekes in the achronim. Some hold it stops by the woman and then after the husband gets it, then the answer would work. It became purified in Esther's hand. But according to some others, it goes directly. The moment the woman acquires, she's like the outstretched hand of the husband. So then this answer wouldn't work. The moment she took it from Achashverosh, it doesn't stop by her. It goes straight to Mordechai. There's no There's no split. She's like the outstretched hand of her husband. She acquires on his behalf. So then this answer, and I thought that was an interesting thing. So now I want to tell you some things that are going to answer both questions. Okay? I'm going to give you three answers to this.
What was the first question again?
How could Haman's Eineklech have been Megayer
Right.
if they're from Amalek? And this question is that how could they have taken Haman's house according to Rabbeinu Bechaya that you can't have benefit from the possessions? So the three answers are like this. Number one, you have to look in number 9. Incredible thing from Yonis and Eibeshitz. This is mind-boggling. Shaul left 2 people alive. He did 2 blunders. He left Agag alive in the war, and he left many of the animals. Why did he make these 2 blunders? In fact, when Shaul saw that Shmuel was coming, Shaul said, Shmuel, I fulfilled the will of God. Shaul thought he did everything to the T. Mm-hmm. And Shmuel said, you despise the word of God. You really messed up.
What am I hearing?
And then what happened? Shmuel says, where's Agag? He finds Agag, and Shmuel tells Agag, the same way that you made many women bereft of their kids, your mother's about to become bereft of her kid. And then he made Agag like a scarecrow with his arms and his legs. And he took a sword, went right through and split him into two halves. So B'yonis Naibashit says, well, why was Shmuel bringing up Agag's mother? By Goyim, you always follow the father. Agag was Amaleki from his father. Where does his mother come into the story? Says Rabbi Yonis, incredible. Agag was only Amaleki from his mother, not from his father. Agag's father was from who knows where. Nira, he says, the Shaul talk. You know what Shaul's mistake was? Why did he leave Agag alive? Because Agag, Ima, his mother from Amalek. How do I know? Because Shmuel, when Shmuel speaks to Agag, he speaks about his mother. V'Shaul thought, by going you follow the father. Agag b'chlal is not Amalek. He thought she'er aim lav she'erhu. By goy, you don't follow the mother, you follow the father. So Agag's mother's Amaleki. Who cares? You follow the father. V'im kein ein Agag mizer Amalek. He's not from Amalek, and therefore he chomal, he had mercy. Ube'emes, but in truth, Shaul was wrong. Benachrim by goyim hakol holich acher, all follows the mother. Even a yid who lives with a goyish woman, the kid's a goy. Right? A Jewish father, goyish mother. The halach is the kid's a goy. You always follow the mother. So by every goy, you have to follow the mother. This is what he writes. And since he wrote that, everyone has asked that Rabbi Yonason, what's he talking about? It's not true. You don't follow the mother by goyim. You always follow the father. If a guy's mother is from Egypt and the father is from China, the kid's Chinese, not Egypt. You always follow the father. You always. What is he talking about? Right. So what some of the big Rosh Yeshivas say is like this. The Yidden were not told to destroy the Zerah, the seed of Amalek. The Zecher, the remembrance of Amalek. You know what the difference is? The seed of Amalek is only someone who's paternally from the father, like all other Goyim. The Zecher, the remembrance, though, comes to add something else. If somebody's mother's father's from Amalek, when this guy walks around, he's a remnant. He's a remnant. He's a Zecher of Amalek. He's a remnant. Shaul didn't get that nuance. That's why he didn't kill the animals either. Both of his mistakes were the same thing. Shaul thought killing Amalek is like the 7 nations. It's only the people. And the people that from their father come from that nation. Why kill the animals? And if someone's mother's from Amalek, why kill him? He didn't get the nuance of the Zecher. The Zecher is coming to add the animals, like Rashi says in Kisei, say if you go with that path of Rashi, and also anyone whose mother comes from Amalek.
Especially if he's the king and he's
well, the Zecher,
identified as Amalek.
So with this path, it's incredible. Once you know that Agag himself, the one that fought with Shaul, was not from Amalek, halachically, only from his mother. He's the Zecher of Amalek, not the Zerah. So even if Haman is Ben Archaben many generations later, and even if Haman's kids are also Ben Archaben, but what nation are they? Not Amalek. No, because Agag himself's father was from elsewhere. They're all just a Zecher.
He's from Shaul, he's from Agag.
Yeah, so Haman himself, even his father's father goes back to Agag. But Agag himself's father wasn't from Amalek. So the whole family's only a Zecher. They're only a Zecher. So therefore, like this, therefore we'll answer both questions. Let's say the first kasha, the first kasha about Gerus. When Rabbi Eliezer says in Medrash you can't be Makabal a Ger, that's only someone who's from Amalek, from his father. Like regularly you judge Goyim based on the father. If it's only from the mother, like all of Haman's family, because they go back to Agag, who was only Amaleki from his mother, they're all just the remnant of Amalek. So yeah, there's a mitzvah to destroy them, but these people could be Megayer. Very simple. And now you understand why Haman's palace was mutter. Why, according to Rabbeinu Bechaya, can't you take the possessions of Amalek? Because the possessions are a remembrance. But if the person himself is only a remembrance, then his house is a Zecher of a Zecher.
Yeah.
The 75,000 people they killed in the actual Purim story were all Mamash Amalekim. So their possessions were a Zecher of Amalek. Haman himself's only a Zecher. So his palace is a Zecher of a Zecher.
But what do you do with the women of the Ammon and Moav?
Oh, that was the Brisker stage. the permission.
No, the men of
No,
what
but the
Amalek
women,
has to
the
do.
women
Yeah,
of
next to
these,
made
the
the war.
Rambam over here.
The people.
The women of
The
Mitzrayim
women
and
of Mitzrayim, I mean.
till
you're
the
not-
third generation. What's the
Yeah,
problem
so
with
they
that?
weren't allowed to, but we weren't distinguishing
It's such a wild
women
shot
of
to say that
Mitzrayim
Haman
as
himself
not
is not even
Mitzrayim,
Amalek. Like,
because
the
they're only the
75
women.
million
It's only
thousand
men
they
of
were
Mitzrayim.
Haman guys? No.
The women aren't allowed to convert
mother.
either.
No, they can convert. They just
What's
can't
the whole
marry in. No,
story
that's
upside
just about
down?
marrying
Ah.
into the fold, not conversion.
So it's, but there's no distinction between a woman and a man.
From Mitzrayim, as
From
far as
Mitzrayim.
marrying into the fold,
Yeah.
the conversion is good.
Yeah, but the conversion is good. But the point is, we're identifying a woman as a mitzri, even though she's not a ben acharben. Clearly, she's a woman.
Her father's mitzvahs. You go after her father. No, you go after her father. Her
What
father's
if her
mitzvahs.
grandfather was? What if her mother was a mitzri?
No, then you go after her father.
So only the
If you have a beautiful woman right here who converts and you want to marry her, okay, well you're kind. But as for any of us, that if her mother could be a mitzvah, both her mother's parents, her father's mother as well. If her father's father comes from Spain, she's Spanish.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah,
the
you
first
follow
three
the father.
generations, They can't marry anyway.
She's not mitzvah. She's
If she's
Spanish.
not, if her father is not a
Echad Skardim
mitzvah.
v'echad Nekivus.
That's if the girl's father is a mitzvah. Am I being
any of
completely unclear?
No, it goes all
any
after
of
the father.
kids.
Yeah.
Goes all
But
goes.
if it's in a keva, her kids till third generation can't marry her.
No. Once she's Megayer, then the Torah gives them all the whole, you know, miss hold on. I'm gonna say the next two things. No, these are mamish bombs. These are mamish bombs. Very quickly. Reb Chaim Brisker holds that anyone that hates Jews with a passion that can't be explained is halachically an Amaleki. Where does he get it from? He gets it from a Rambam. I put the Rambam in number 11. I'll say outside. The Rambam there speaks about the mitzvah to destroy the 7 nations, and he says, but you can't do it anymore, they've been dispersed. Then he speaks about destroying Amalek, and he doesn't say that they've been dispersed. Chaim Brisker says, you know why? Because you could still fulfill the war of Amalek. Even if someone's from a different nation, but they ultimately hate Yidden like, they have halacha like an Amalek. He gets it from a Yerushalmi. There's Yerushalmi in Yevamos that says Haman was the son of Hamdasa. He says, you think he was the son of Hamdasa? No. But we're linking the two because each of them were sworn anti-Semitic. So it says Reb Chaim Brisker, Haman was Persian. Haman was Persian. He was Persian. But he halachically became Amalek because of his anti-Semitism. So therefore, this answers both questions. He's Eniklach or Megayer. They're Persians. They're Persians. He wasn't Amaleki.
Right.
What about his house?
Same thing.
He's only Amaleki because of his ideals. That doesn't affect his possessions. The 75,000 people they killed in Adar and the Purim were Mamash Amalekim. Haman Punkt was the only guy that was treated like a Amaleki because of his Mishugasin. That's why it didn't go over to his house. And the last answer, I'm going to finish with this, is that Haman was actually Jewish. You have no. Hello. This. Okay, let's do this. Let's finish. Let's do this. This is unbelievable. Number 12. Look at number 12. Number 12. Vayhi ka'amram. So Achashverosh gave a rule that everyone must bow down to Haman. Mordechai refused. Vayhi, and it was number 12. Ka'amram Elov, when the other officers approached Mordechai Yom V'yom every day, and they said, why, what are you doing? Why are you raising a ruckus? Why are you defying Haman? V'loi Shama, Mordechai didn't listen. V'yagidu laHaman, the people told Haman, Liros, to see, Hayamdu divrei Mordechai, will Mordechai's words stand? Ki higid lehem, because Mordechai told them, Asher hu Yehudi, that is Jewish. By the way, that means Haman didn't realize Mordechai didn't bow? Yeah, Haman wouldn't look. Haman was such a balgaiva, he assumed everyone bowed down. He didn't even inspect. But they told him. Now, why Taka didn't Mordechai bow? So look at number 13 is the Targum. It's an Aramaic Targum on the Megillah. What?
Who was number 12?
Number 12 is the Megillah. It's from the Megillah. Written by Mordechai and Esther. Number 13. Mordechai lo havagochin, did not bend la'andarta. Haman had two things. Haman wanted people to bow down to him as a He made himself godly, but he also had an image that he carried with him. And the Targum says clearly that Mordechai wouldn't bow to either. Landrata is the image, and neither V'lo Havasog, he wouldn't bow down to Haman either. Al di Havale Avad Plach, because Haman was a servant of Mordechai. Vizdabenle, he was sold to him, Betumo de Lechaim, for a loaf of bread. This is hinted to in the Gemara. Now watch the story. There's a sefer called Monos Halevi. I have it at home. I just couldn't find it. It's good because it would have been a third paper. So you're lucky I couldn't find it. But Reb Shloime El Kabatz, the great Kabbalist,
story is in that book?
he quotes the whole story and he quotes the document. He writes like this: it was in the second year of Achashverosh's reign, before the Megillah. Even the Megillah starts in year 3. This was in year 2. That there was a country called Hindika that rebelled against Achashverosh. And Achashverosh sent soldiers to squash the rebellion. 2 generals, Mordechai on one side, Haman on the other. It was supposed to be a 3-year trip.
I mean, Haman was the nemesis, was the enemy?
Well, the two the 2 of them were joint generals in Achashverosh's army.
Joint generals.
Yeah, Haman and Mordechai go way back. And they were both given a large sum of money to take care of the battalions of soldiers. And unfortunately, in the first year, Haman squandered all the money. Gambling, he squandered. The soldiers come to Haman, we need food. He has no food. They want to kill him. He begs Mordechai. He tells Mordechai, lend me some money. When we get back to the thing, I'll pay you 100% interest. Mordechai says, the Chumash says you can't take interest from your brother. I come from Yaakov. You come from Esav. You're my brother. I couldn't do that to you. Haman begs 10 times. I'll pay you 1,000% interest when we get back to Persia. And Mordechai said, the only way is if you sell yourself as a slave. And he did. And they wrote it on the shoe of Mordechai. They couldn't find the document, and they wrote. Now, here's very important. Haman wrote the document, the bill of sale, and Haman writes that I wanted to pay back 1,000% interest, but Mordechai said he can't take it because I'm his brother, and therefore I had no other choice but to sell myself. Now, Haman wrote that, which is important, because Mordechai bluffed, right? You're allowed to take ribos from a goy. The fact that Haman put that in the document, Haman was trying to say that this is really this whole sale, I was forced into it. But either way, he wrote this document. And whenever, years later, they come back to Persia, and Haman is elevated, richest man, most important man in the kingdom, when he would walk past Mordechai, Mordechai would just pick up his foot. In fact, we have in the Targum in number 14, it says clearly. Look at number 14. This pasuk is said after the first meal that Esther has with Achashverosh. What?
This is Targum Sheni, no?
The regular Targum, not Targum Sheni. It's already in the original Targum. And this is after the first feast that Esther, Achashverosh, and Haman have, the day before Haman gets killed. When Haman exited Milavas Malka from the king, B'yom on that day, Chadi, he was happy, Ubedach Libi, he's in a great mood. The Kadchaza Haman, when he saw Mordechai, Vias Taflai, saw the kids that sick and that were involved in the Torah, in the Sanhedrin that Esther had made, Mordechai lo kom min kodem androte, Mordechai did not stand from the image, Velada tatmine, and Mordechai was not afraid, didn't shake, Elohein, rather, Poshat yas rigle yemine, he stuck out his right foot, Va'achvelein, he showed him the bottom, the sole of the foot, the shoe. Stars up into the document, Dizdabenle, that he sold him, Betumo de Lechaim, for the food. The Mikatu that was written, Be'istrak Lile, which means the ankle or the sole of Mordechai's boot. So the Chassam Sofer says,
He said he was his brother.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
No, ribos.
Wait, he bought him as an Eved. When you buy a guy as an Eved, he's an Eved Kanani.
He comes out.
Says the Chassam Sofer,
No,
Mordechai gave him a bris. Says when Haman's like, I need the money. Mordechai's like, no problem, you'll be out of here in a half hour. He gave him a bris. He toiveled him in the river. And Eved Knani is a quasi-Jew, is chayiv in mitzvahs like a woman. In fact, there's a shaila if Haman would have had to come to shul this Shabbos. If women have to come, then Haman has to come. Imagine he's coming, he's coming. Oh. So the Chassam Sofer says, look back in number 12. Why were these people, they told Haman Mordechai's story to see will Mordechai's words stand, because he told them that he was Jewish. That who was Jewish? Haman. Mordechai told these people, I should bow down. This guy's a Jew. How's he a Jew? He's my Evet. The Chassam Sofer, there's a medrash that says that there were, in the times of the Churban, there were two women, Zionist prostitutes, and the two of them were at each other's necks, and one of them told the other one, "You look like a Jewess." And later on, the two women, they survive, and the woman says, "I forgive you for everything you told me, except for the fact that I look like a Jew." We mentioned Jackie May, he always jokes about, Jewish women always trying to make themselves look like Goyim, right? The Medrash says there was a big, even for a non-frum Yid to carry the name Jew was offensive. Imagine calling a Goy a Jew. He says when Mordechai told these people Haman's Jewish and Haman heard that, he blew it. He blew it. You're calling him a Jew? Oh, so now that you know Haman had the halach of an Evet Kanani, it's very simple. How did his kids be Megayer? The Rogatchover says, when Haman came back from this war, right, his Mordechai slave, he goes back to his wife, he has kids. The kids Haman had before were full on Amalekim, assuming it's from Amalek. But the future kids he had, what's the halach, an Evet Kanani that lives with a Goyish woman? The kids have no relation to the Evet, they follow the mother. Haman's wife Zeresh was not Amaleki. She wasn't. Who was her father as a child, but she was Persian, assuming she was Persian. So the kids only follow the mother. So Haman's Einekluch, who ended up teaching Torah, their ancestor was one of Haman's kids that he had with his wife after he was an Evet Kanani. They don't follow the father. They're not Amalekim. They have no Amaleki blood. And that's why Haman's palace was mutter. When you own an Evet Kanani, whatever the Evet Kanani owns. Mordechai said, I already own this already in my house. Anyway, that's what the Chassam Sofer says, that Mordechai told him, this guy is a Jew. Haman was a Jew. All right. You want to know my answer about the... Okay, all right. Well, if you want to know... Rabbi Teitelbaum asked, the mitzvah of destroying Amalek, who is the mitzvah upon? There are three opinions. Some hold it's only on the king. The Ramban, the Uraim, the Rishon, the Uraim, they both hold it's only on the king. That's why Shmuel gave the message to Shaul. That's why in Beshalach Moshe tells Yeshu, it's always on the king. It's a mitzvah on the king to destroy Amalek. The army, we just help the king do his mitzvah. Just like the mitzvah of Hakel is a mitzvah on the king. That's why the Rebbe was his personal, as a leader, it's his personal mitzvah. Anyhow, that's what the Ramban and the Uraim hold. The Rambam writes in Sefer HaMitzvahs, it's on the community. The community as a whole. It's not on any particular person, it's the community as a whole. The Sefer HaChinuch said this on each individual. If you look back at number 2, he actually writes, in number 2, in the 5th line, he says, Ube'emes, in truth, says the Sefer HaChinuch, Gam al kol yochid, on every individual from the Yidden, the men, Haschorim, there's a chiv to destroy them. And look what he says in the next line. He says, if you're walking down a dark alley, you see Amaleki, and you don't kill him, you were just mevatel a mitzvah.
Mavato or over?
You're over, but it's a mitzvah saseh. So you transgress it passively.
Right.
Now many hold he's talking about when it's a time of war. It's not when it's a time of war, but he holds this on each individual. So the Sefer HaChinuch holds each individual, the Rambam holds the community, and the Uraim and the Ramban hold it on the king. Now, the Rogatchover writes in his commentary on Chumash in a one-liner that no matter who the mitzvah is on, the mitzvah only applies when there is a king.
Only applies when?
When there is a king.
So it's on everybody?
Whether it's the king's mitzvah or the community or the yachid, it's only when there is a king. How does he know that? There's a few Gemaras. One of them is a Gemara in Sanhedrin. In fact, the Chinuch quotes in number 2. The Gemara says 3 mitzvahs the Yidden were commanded when they entered Eretz Yisrael. You have to appoint a king, destroy Amalek, and build the Beis HaMikdash. The order here is actually incorrect. It's a printer's mistake. But the order is king, destroy Amalek, Beis HaMikdash. Like they did. First they made Shaul a king, then you destroy Amalek, and then David finishes that off, and then Shlomo builds it. So the Rogatchover says, so what do you see? In order to destroy Amalek, you need to have a king. Whoever the mitzvah is on, you definitely need to have a king. Now, when Haman was killed, the Yidden had no king. They had no king. There was no king. The Yidden were in Persia. There was no king. Because there was no king, according to the Rogatchover, the war doesn't apply. And therefore, Rabbeinu Bechaya's halacha that you can't benefit from the possessions doesn't apply. But a few months later, in Chof Gimel Sivan, when they sent out the second letters to allow them to defend themselves for the following Adar, it says, Mordechai Yotza Melifnei HaMelech. He was wearing the fancy clothes. And it says in Medrash Rabbah, Omer Pinchas, Mordechai minted coins, him on one side, Esther on the other. It says Mordechai became a king. Mordechai Molach ala Yehudim. Mordechai was appointed by Achashverosh to be the king of all the Jews. So he was halachically a king. So therefore, Medrash Rabbah, Mordechai Molach, Pinchas is Lashon. Mordechai Molach ala Yehudim.
So it's not a double answer, but it answers.
No, not a double answer. So therefore, when Adar came and they killed, they have a king. So then the war sets in, and because the war sets in, they can't have benefits. That's another answer to that thing. All right.
That's not a...
Yeah, that's not so.
Yeah.
I don't like that one.
Critical on yourself.
That was actually pretty solid.
Listen, when I leave, you'll say what you really think.
No, that one's actually
I was
pretty
waiting to
well
answer.
founded.
Yeah, this was
Pretty simple.
Yeah, it is.
No king.
Yeah.
What was it? The Briskers?
The Brisker said it's a similar thing. It has to. The war has to be. No, he says the war has to be commissioned by another.
king. But that's
By
a
another,
third
by
thing
another,
of how
another.
we got that.
Another.
That's a third thing how we got that.
Well, he says it. There's a story of Shmuel and Shaul. Why did Shaul have to wait? If Shaul has a mitzvah as a king to serve mothers, why was he waiting till Shmuel did the war? She begged. She begged.
Esther was in Nebuah?
Yeah, the Gemara Megillah counts 7 women that prophecy. Esther's one of them. It's actually an incredible thing. Listen, I just saw this from the Vilna Gaon the other day. Unbelievable. I told Rabbi Shapiro and he loves it. It's incredible. It's a very thought-provoking. He says it in one line in his commentary. The Gemara Shveirish willingly, like we
risk
heard
her
last
life.
year, no, but she was expecting to spend the night with him willingly, and at that point she would become forbidden to continue living with Mordechai.
Right.
Because she would be doing adultery. She's allowed to save the Yidden, but since it's Adati, I'm going to be lost from you forever.
Right.
When she said to Vilna Gaon, when she went in that night, Tachashverosh, for that day, she was the most broken she ever was. The first time she's going in unsummoned, she's going Tachashverosh.
Which means she's going
to be also to Mordechai. She was completely broken. It was the first time the Shekhinah ever rested upon her. First time. That was when the first time.
It's very much like Tanya.
The Vilna Gaon says that until a person is broken, they're not a receptacle for God.
Just learned that in Tanya not too long.
She thought this was the lowest point of her life. She said, now I'm lost forever. That was the first time that she actually had the Eibush rest upon her. Incredible
Didn't we
words.
just learn something like that in Tanya? We just covered that in Tanya about being broken and yeah, we're up to Lamed Beis now, not too long ago.
Right. Got to break that. Anyways, okay, so this is some of the interesting. I have a new appreciation of this week. Parsha Zohar, the Megillah. Haman is Jewish. Oh, can you say?
Jewish. He's an Evan.
Can you say
He's an Evan Knan.
Can you say
now?
Haman? So the bnei Nezer, Chassidish Rebbe once said, you can't say Yamach Shemoy in a Yid.
Really?
He said, I have a proof.
Haman.
No. maybe you say Yamach Shemoy.
Yeah.
No, he said it's a simple proof. Halacha. When it comes to Yibum, Reuven's married to Leah, right? And Reuven dies childless, so Leah has a mitzvah to marry Reuven's brother Shimon. And the Torah says in Pajak say, why should he do it? Shimon should marry his sister-in-law in order that if they have a boy, that will perpetuate v'lo yimach shmoy, that the first guy's name shouldn't be erased. What if the first guy was an apikairis? Many Rishonim hold the mitzvah of Yibum still applies.
It still applies.
If the brother dies,
Right.
Why? Because God wants you to perpetuate his name. V'lo yimach shmoy, the name shouldn't be erased. He learned some names by a Yid.
You can.
So by Shabsai Tzvidas, people use the Yamach Shmoy.
What about the fact that you can do chalitza and then you are?
By Haman, who Yehudi? The Chassam Sofer says he was, and he's not the only one. There's a few people that learn that.
Yeah, but
way.
if you don't do Yibum, then you
Yehudi
are
means
erasing his
Haman
name.
was a Jew. What?
If you don't do Yibum, then you are erasing his name.
So in the Klat Haman, that's
Yes, and this. Are you saying Bechlal? Okay, no. The Abish gives you a choice. The Abish is never going to force you to marry a specific woman. You know, you don't have
So
to
what you
marry your
say is
sister.
you say
The fact that the mitzvah applies to means God, the Eibishter wants his name.
To stay.
Continue.
The words in the Chumash are v'lo yimach,
Yeah.
shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So how could you say yimach shemayim? Now, some Rishonim hold there is no mitzvah of Yibum there. It's a debate. But according to those that hold that there is.
Minig Yisrael, the clap.
Heard his idea?
No, what do you say?
Oh, so how do you
So
clap
what
Haman?
say
That's the
is
thing.
say the
Shach,
guy's name,
and
and
now
then
you say
we
Machshema.
can't say Machshema.
Yeah, that's Benji.
No,
It's a Shabbos today.
I never heard that.
Say.
He can't say.
Of course, then.
Benji.
Can't say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Never, that's taking it. That's,
Benji Korf's father-in-law was a big mishachist.
Mishachist.
It was in Rabbi Korf's virulent anti-days. So when he had a bar mitzvah here in the tent. It was his. I'll never forget it in my life. I'll never forget it in my life. I was there. It was the most brilliant thing. So he did. It was like a Mark Antony moment in Shakespeare's Caesar. So he told a story. In the story, the Mishachist was saying this stuff. I'm not talking about me. I'm not saying it. He told the whole story, a whole day, and Rabbi Korf couldn't do anything to him.
He did do something.
He didn't say. He was reporting.
The guy put on film the guy and he said,
Passed him a note after.
Hey, what? I'm not saying
Yeah. I'm not telling you Brutus, but
I was
because Brutus
sitting
is
there.
an honorable man.
Passed him a note after. It
He
said,
passed.
"V'mokim zeh in imrim
Brilliant.
No. So Maaseh Lepoel, was he Jewish or not? He was definitely Jewish from the Eved Ivri.
only if he did a bris milah.
No,
Only
but
if he
not
made the bris.
Bismillah. But only if
You
he
don't know for
released
sure that
him.
No,
No.
We just
You
learned
become a
the Rambam.
chatzi.
Chatzi.
But not
But the
fully
bris
until
comes-
you get
Chatzi.
released.
The bris
No,
comes
but-
in the beginning or at the end?
Chatzi. Never, no fully.
What?
You're not a
bris
full
comes right
Jew
away.
unless you get released.
Yeah.
Correct.
Then why-
But you still have the mitzvahs
You
of a
still,
woman.
yeah, you have a chatzi.
Yeah, but
The ultimate revenge for
we just
Mordechai
learned-
would
we
be
just-
to release him
Release
before
him.
he died, and
Right.
then make him a full
Get the
Jew.
bris. Release him.
Within the year, he's supposed to be freed.
Yeah, we just learned that in the Rambam. The Rambam said if he doesn't get a bris within the year of him, he has to be freed.
Well,
I
Right, this means you have bad intentions. No, we learned it not too long ago. You guys are not so far behind us because we're gonna merge up soon. It's over soon. Yeah, we're in like the second or last big long book.
The guy who actually murdered.
I'm telling
You
you,
have to be in the last book, or
Yeah.
close to the end of
It's
the
close
last
to
book,
the end.
because
we're gonna finish soon.
we just started the second to last book.
We're
today.
merging soon. We're merging soon.
No, we merge at the end, or we
Yeah.
merge it all.
No, we